Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Govea. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group. We're located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And today, my friends, we're talking about the compromised FBI, the massive corruption that exists over there in the Bureau, talking specifically about Thibault, Timothy Thibault, or Thibault is sort of how it feels like you want to say it, so it might come out that way. But Timothy Thibault, of course, let's take a look at our mind map so we can get our bearings straight here. You see, we've got three big segments that we'll attend to. FBI removing this guy, and he's sort of a bona fide Trump hater. We're going to spend some time on this because I think this is a very important topic. You know, the FBI is so pernicious. It's got its little tentacles in everything. We've talked a lot about all sorts of issues in this country. We talked about the Whitmer plot. We've talked about January 6th, everything, right? And it all sort of seemingly goes back to the FBI. So we're going to talk about this guy right here. You see him. We're going to spend some time on it. He was the subject of a lot of conversations leading up till this day. And so we'll really unpack that. We've got a big conversation, a big exchange between Senator Kennedy and Christopher Wray that took place earlier this year. Now, we clipped from some of this hearing, but we didn't spend much time on this guy. But he was the subject of like 8 or 9 minutes of questioning. And so we are going to go through some of that today. We'll check in with Senator Chuck Grassley, as well as Representative Jim Jordan, who's saying, you know, both of them have these whistleblowers that are coming out and now communicating their concerns about the FBI to both of these people. And so we'll spend some time there. Then we're going to jump into kind of a related issue. But, you know, the FBI, it's an agency that is supposed to be intelligent, and they're supposed to guide us through national security issues and things like that. Well, this guy, you may not know him, but his name is Jeremy Bash. And he just got appointed to Biden's Intelligence Committee. And so he's going to go on there and I guess provide intelligence to Joe Biden. He could use some. But this is a big issue because this guy was a bona fide Hunter Biden denier. He actually signed on to that ridiculous statement that about 50 so-called intelligence individuals, you know, believed. They all said that this was Russian disinformation, the Hunter Biden laptop saga. It was all just a bunch of nonsense. And this guy, Jeremy, signed off on it. He's like, oh, yeah, totally. Definitely Russian information. What month is it? Oh, it's October. Oh, yeah, shoot. Yeah. Let me sign that real fast. In fact, don't even send it to my office. I don't even need to sign it. Just put my name on there and send it out. So we'll check in on that. He's now going to be advising the president. He talks about January 6th like a terrorist attack on our country. He's a contributor over at MSNBC. And I've got a clip of his that sort of made me laugh out loud today. So I'll share that with you. And then we have to ask ourselves, you know, is this stuff consequential? Is this Hunter Biden cover-up stuff? Does it matter? Is it impactful in any way, shape, or form? Well, it kind of turns out that it very well may be. In fact, there's an organization called MRC, and they conducted a poll, right? Anybody can go out and get a poll. You can just sort of fund it and ask whatever questions you want. And they came back, they asked some questions, and we'll unpack that, saying that about 80% of Biden voters, had they known what we now know, they would have voted for him anyways. You know, if you say, hey, look, you like Joe Biden, you love him. You know about this Hunter Biden stuff? No, I didn't know about it. Tell me more. You say, Hunter Biden's a disgusting pervert. And you say, and that person says, oh, well, I don't care. I still love Joe Biden. 80% of those people. But the 20% are in that other category and they may have moved. So we'll unpack that story. And then in our last segment, we'll talk, it's a little bit of a Trump update. Not a lot of activity in either one of his cases. Of course, we're covering two parallel cases. We've got the search warrant saga that's taking place out of Florida. And then Trump is actually suing the government. He's actually saying to them, you know, you can't do this stuff. You should appoint a special master to investigate all these documents. And so we'll take a look at that case as well. Very, very minimal updates today, as we would expect. But Trump did add a new lawyer to the team. And so a lot of headlines hitting the dockets out there today that his defense team is sort of beefing up a little bit. And he just brought on this guy. You see him here, Kise, I want to say, maybe. Kind of hard to find much about this guy. In fact, I tried to dig up a bio or a website on him. Couldn't find much about him. But he apparently is a pretty heavy hitter, right? I did actually go back on the Wayback Machine and was able to pull up his bio from the last law firm that he was at. But a big Florida, kind of a heavy hitter down in Florida, been in front of the Supreme Court a number of times. And so we'll go through his record and just familiarize ourselves with the rest of Trump's team. Alina Abba, we've talked a lot about her. We talked a lot about her, I think, during, I forget what it was, what issues. We've covered a lot of stuff here. James Trusty also on board. Lindsey Halligan, and of course we know Evan Corcoran, all on Trump's team. And so we'll dig into that. There was a motion that was submitted by government prosecutors. They want more pages. They said, we have a lot to say about this issue because Judge, 20 pages is not going to cut it. Can you give us more? And the judge said, sure. Yeah. How much do you want? And they said 40. They said, perfect. 40 pages. We'll take a look at the prosecutor and their request for that. And then I came across this clip from this guy, Mike Davis. I'd encourage you to give him a follow. He's been doing some good stuff. Mr. DMIA at Twitter. And he had this appearance. He was on Fox News talking to somebody over there. And he came out and in like 2 minutes, he delivered just a slam dunk. He summarized everything, all of Trump's defenses into like 2 minutes. And it was really good. So I wanted to share that with you. But you can see, my friends, look at all this stuff that we've got to get to. And there's just a lot here. And I'm excited to dive into it. And of course, this is a live stream and it's better if we do it together, which means if you want to be a part of the show, the place to do that is over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We've got a comments thread that we're going to get to at the end of the show. We've got a couple questions lined up in here. Former LEOs in the house, Trickies in the house. We also post our morning walk and talks over there, as well as for members on YouTube. So if you don't want to go to locals, you can click that join button right on YouTube. It's right next to the subscribe button. If you haven't hit that button, I'd really appreciate it. Love that. Also right next to the like button. If you have subscribed and if you're a member, you can also like it. There's a lot of options up there and I'd appreciate any one of them. If you are, and by the way, I don't have a Hunter Biden GIF yet. All right. Lean made a request yesterday for one of these puppies and I'm working on it. We haven't found one yet. Vientika sent me one over, but it's got some text on it and I got to reformat them to be super small and square. And so it's kind of a project, but I'm on it, Lean. Don't you worry. We'll get a Hunter Biden GIF in there soon enough. And of course, if you happen to know anybody in the state of Arizona, whether they live here, traveling here, Grand Canyon, whatever's going on, if they're here and they get in trouble, we would love the opportunity to help. We have an amazing team of people at my office, the R&R Law Group. We're located in Scottsdale, Arizona. And we have a mission to help good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope, not only in their limited criminal cases, but beyond that and in their lives. We appreciate your referrals over to our team. We love the work that we do. We're grateful for your referrals, and we appreciate it. All right, and so now it is time to get into the news of the day. So let's cue this puppy back up and really spend some time on this because, it's important. The FBI has been responsible for a lot of the stories that we've covered here. And when they boot somebody out, we got to pay attention to it. The FBI just removed a Trump hater, somebody who's got some documented animus towards the former president. We're going to hear more about that from Senator Kennedy. When he was asking Christopher Wray about that, the FBI director showed up in Congress, asked and answered some questions, and we're going to spend some time talking about it, specifically about this guy right here. You see his photograph? That's Timothy Thibault, and it's Thibault. So some people are saying Thibault or whatever, but he goes by Thibault apparently. And he is no longer at the FBI, was there for a very long time, has apparently resigned. We're going to take a look at that story. This is somebody who has been under the spotlight for quite some time. Chuck Grassley, the senator seen here, he had some comments about this before today. And we're also going to hear what Representative Jim Jordan had to say about this, because Jordan is saying that whistleblowers are coming out of the woodwork and they're informing Congress, they're informing other people about the problems within the FBI, and they are trying to address it. But let's start at the top. Who is this guy? Timothy Thibault. We've got a little bit of a nice summary over here from CBS News. You can see Andres Trier posted this August 30th. He says, a top-level FBI agent under fire for the role in the Hunter Biden investigation resigns. Gone. CBS tells us that he's a top-level FBI agent. He'd been under fire for his role in investigations about Hunter. Resigned late last week, and here you go, was walked out of the FBI. Get your boxes and get out. Now, I've seen some people saying, well, everybody who resigns, everybody who leaves, even if it's your last day and they throw you a party with cake and, candles or whatever they do there, they say you're still walked out. It's the FBI. They're not just like, okay, well, just show yourself out. Just take whatever you want on the way out. So they say he resigned last week and he was walked out, according to 2 U.S. officials. But these officials also said that Thibault had reached retirement age. And they added that all those who retire hand over their badge and their gun and they're escorted out of the building. Now, this guy worked at FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. We're going to learn a little bit more about that from Christopher Wray. He had recently been removed from his position as an assistant special agent in charge of the FBI Washington field office. Why? Because Christopher Wray got a very nasty letter over from Chuck Grassley, the senator. And if you've been a part of this channel for some time, we've read basically every one of those letters that Chuck Grassley has sent over to the FBI, line by line, because Grassley has been all over this. He says this guy was covering all of the District of Columbia and Northern Virginia. And some of that's going to be important because Senator Kennedy was beating up on Director Wray in Congress, peacefully and politically. And he was asking him all sorts of questions about this guy. And Christopher Wray said, gosh, I can't remember. It's a good question. I'll have to check my notes. Thibault came under fire earlier this year from Republicans Grassley. Grassley said that he was engaging in improper conduct in the Hunter investigation. And the probe was being run by the same DOJ, right? There's no special counsel investigating Hunter Biden. It's the same DOJ's office. Merrick Garland, the same guy investigating Trump, his office is investigating Hunter. Got to be kidding me. Grassley said in late July, and I've got a clip of this, that highly credible whistleblowers had approached a senior Senate Republican and alleged a widespread effort within the FBI to downplay or discredit negative information about Hunter Biden. And if you missed it, Mark Zuckerberg was on the Joe Rogan show where he made that same point. He said, FBI showed up at my stinking billionaire mansion and they told me, you better turn off the button on those things there, buddy boy. This guy is citing a 2020 FBI intelligence assessment, he says, was used by FBI headquarters team to improperly discredit negative Hunter Biden information as disinformation. He continued, he said, based on allegations that Hunter Biden and anything that was derogatory about him was falsely labeled as disinformation. All this stuff came out in October 2020, 1 month before the election. There was a letter that came out. They say an avenue of derogatory Hunter Biden reporting was ordered closed by a senior FBI agent at the Washington field office. Who could that have been? Who would have said that anything that was derogatory about Hunter, just close it? Don't need to look into it. Don't need to investigate anything. Just get rid of it here. We're just close it out. Well, an earlier letter from Grassley said that that agent was Thibault, the guy who made those orders, the partisan political FBI special agent. Grassley said the allegations provided to me and to my office appear to indicate that there was a scheme in place among certain FBI officials to undermine info about Hunter Biden, falsely suggesting it was disinformation. Grassley said that Thibault was violating federal laws in the letter, saying that whistleblowers have reported that although the FBI and the Justice Department maintaining policies, Thibault and other Justice Department and FBI officials failed to comply with these requirements. Letter also singled out somebody else by the name of Richard Pilger and others. And Grassley said that there are major problems after the office from Chuck Grassley sent a letter. It says here there was a lot of no further comments about any of this. Now we have a hearing that took place between the FBI and Chuck Grassley as well as Senator Kennedy. We have that queued up here, and I want to play quite a bit of this. This is a 9-minute clip. We're not going to listen to the whole thing, but we do have some business to attend to. This is Senator Kennedy asking FBI Director Christopher Wray about Timothy Thibault, the FBI special agent who resigned and apparently was escorted out. Christopher Wray gets asked some pretty pointed questions, and as usual, he answers. He says, I am here, but I can't comment on an ongoing investigation. As usual, that's what they say. And he also says things like, well, gosh, it's hard for me to remember because it's just such a complicated job being the director of the FBI. Here is more.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Director, who is Timothy Thibault?
Mr. Thibault was, for some period of time until relatively recently, what's called an ASAC in our Washington field office.
He was the Assistant Special Agent in charge?
That's what ASAC stands for. There's a whole number of them in the Washington field office. The structure is there's at the head of the office, and then there's SACs, and then the next level down, there's the level that he was at.
And he
So
has
fairly
or
high
had
up.
been with the FBI about 25 years. Is that right?
Well, now you're testing my knowledge a little bit.
Okay.
Doesn't know too much.
He was a powerful guy. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
He was a powerful guy. Is that correct?
What just happened on the audio?
He had no power.
I think every law enforcement agent in the FBI with the responsibilities they're entrusted with has significant power.
Okay. Did he work on the President Trump Russian collusion investigation?
Now here we get a little tricky answer, right? Pretty easy. Now look at Christopher Wray.
I'm not sure I know the answer to that. Not that I'm aware of, but I can't say that with certainty.
Did he or does he work on the FBI investigation of Mr. Hunter Biden?
Oh, good question.
So the investigation that you're referring to, and I have to be a little bit careful because we're talking about an ongoing investigation.
There it is, yeah.
Is being run out of our Baltimore field office, working with the Delaware U.S. Attorney, who's a holdover from the prior administration.
Okay.
So I'm confused, Chris, with your answer. Did he work or does he work on the Hunter Biden investigation?
So he's not going to say.
As I said, the Hunter Biden investigation is being run out of the Baltimore field office.
And Thibault works where? Out of the D.C. field office, or maybe the same office. No answers.
Isn't it true that in September of 2020, Special Agent Thibault went on social media and liked a Washington Post article entitled, quote, "William Barr has gone rogue"?
I have seen descriptions to that effect. I have to be a little bit careful about how far we can go in this conversation because
Why?
of specific ongoing personnel matters.
Oh, okay. So it's ongoing investigation, and then it's ongoing personnel matters, and then if he doesn't have the answer, I don't know. I don't know. So you have to challenge my social media memories there, and then just non-answers on top of that, right? A Baltimore field office, D.C. field office. Hunter Biden is the Delaware office, has a holdover from the prior administration, which is that guy that I can't remember his name right now, Chris something or other. And then he's moved over to the Baltimore office. So yes or no? No answers. And then ongoing personnel matters. So, just on and on and on.
True that also in September of 2020, Special Agent Thibault went on social media and posted a Washington Post article entitled, quote, "Why the Michael Flynn case still matters."
A similar answer to the one I gave before.
I don't look at everybody's social media. Now, Senator Kennedy is going to continue on with this, right? I'm going to let it play just a little bit because there's really a lot here. Right? It's sort of the point. And Senator Kennedy does such a good job of this. He's sort of like this, just asks these nice questions very just kind of easily and candidly. Do you know about this? No, I don't. He does it like 3 or 4 more times with additional posts just showing you that this guy is a political partisan hack. And he's doing this intentionally. He's doing it, kind of this nice folksy approach as he does. But it's still something that he's just rubbing Christopher Wray's nose in this. This was your agent. Okay, this is what he was doing all over social media. I mean, you're out there talking about social media misinformation and disinformation and dangerous narratives being proffered forward. You've got entire agencies being conducted around, or departments being set up around homegrown violent extremists and all this stuff. But now he can't remember the answer to these things. And
isn't it true that in November of 2020, Special Agent Thibault, Assistant Special Agent in charge of the D.C. office, who allegedly worked on the Trump-Russia collusion investigation and the Hunter Biden investigation,
out of D.C.,
retweeted a Lincoln Project tweet that said, quote, Donald Trump is a psychologically broken, embittered, and deeply unhappy man.
a retweet from the special
Again,
agent.
I've seen descriptions of posts, and I'm really trying to be very careful not to get in the way of any ongoing personnel matters.
Isn't it also true that in January of 2001, in response to Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville's election to the United States Senate,
He just keeps going on.
from Alabama, of course, Special Agent Thibault went on social media and posted, quote, "Thank God for Mississippi, the state motto of Alabama."
Can't sit here and quote chapter and verse on an individual's social media posts.
Don't know. Yeah. Huh. Okay.
Isn't it also true that in June of 2020, Special Agent in charge Thibault, a 25-year veteran of the agency, tweeted to Congresswoman Liz Cheney, quote, "Your dad was a disgrace."
Wow, that's pretty political.
Again, I've seen descriptions to that effect, but I'm going to have to be very careful not to interfere with any kind of ongoing person.
And last month, didn't
one.
Agent Thibault go on media and tweet, quote, "Can we give Kentucky to the Russian Federation?"
Well, that's rude. Very rude.
Again, same answer that I've given before.
All right, so
All right.
you get the gist of this.
Isn't it true that Mr. Thibault, Agent Thibault, and FBI Supervisory Intelligence Analyst Brian Otan covered up derogatory information about Mr. Hunter Biden while working for the FBI?
Well, again, I want to be very careful not to interfere.
So this is a different person, right? He sort of asks about a different individual, but Christopher Wray then he goes back, and I think we have a clip here from him now saying, this is not indicative of the FBI, right? You're talking about these people left and right here. Timothy Thibault or whatever the other guy's name is. I'm used to seeing a lot of very honorable men and women in the FBI.
It is trouble.
And it is totally...
And it's not about their political beliefs.
Right.
It's not about their political beliefs. It's about that this is a senior employee at the FBI with years of experience going on social media and tweeting this kind of stuff.
At the top.
So I have,
investigations.
since I started in...
Which gives the people the impression that there is bias, whether there is or there isn't.
I feel very strongly...
Here it comes.
And I have communicated consistently since I started as director that our folks need to make sure that they're not just doing the right thing, that they're doing it in the right way, and that they avoid even the appearance of bias or lack of objectivity. And in fact...
Gosh, are you
in
serious?
fact, one of the things I did, which to my knowledge had never been done before at the FBI, was in 2018, I pulled together and I started at the top, which in my experience, and somebody in law enforcement, it never works that way. I started at the top and I brought the 250 or so very top people in the FBI from one corner of the globe to the other for a full-day stand-down at Quantico where the whole focus of the message, and we heard from the Inspector General, we heard from a judge, we heard from the people who enforced the Hatch Act, the whole focus
I know
was on
I know you did,
the importance of the
But you wouldn't do something like this.
They really brought 250 people together. They had a little seminar out there. I don't know what they talked about, but they said, even the appearance of impropriety is a problem. You can't do that. And of course, we've covered a lot of the impropriety of the FBI and all of the setup that happened with the Governor Whitmer hoax, the retrial that's taking place or that took place there, right? The litany of FBI problems goes on and on and on. Christopher Wray, he apparently doesn't see it the same way the rest of us do.
This man had been with the FBI for 25 years. He's now on leave. He did this kind of stuff as recently as last month.
Yeah.
Do you know how this looks to the American people?
I will tell you that what you're describing is not representative of the FBI that I see up close every day in this country, where I see patriots working their tails off.
And I
with
agree
tremendous
with
integrity and
I agree with that,
objectivity.
and have said that to you repeatedly.
Yes.
But you're killing yourselves with this stuff.
Yep.
And this investigation needs to be completed on this gentleman, and the results need to be reported to the American people.
To the American people, he says. And are we going to see any reports or any response? I doubt it. So all that took place quite some time ago. Now, Thibault is gone, right? He's not in there anymore. They walked him out apparently on Friday. Don't know if that was voluntary. Don't know if this is, more sort of rats fleeing the sinking ship. You know what happened with Strzok and Lisa Page and all of these other people, right? When they get over the fire, when their butt is getting warm, they all sort of abandon ship and they go get MSNBC gigs and show up on cable news. But Christopher Wray is sort of detailing, look, I gathered up all of the FBI agents, brought them together. We sang Kumbaya. We, reminded ourselves about what an evil dictator Trump is. And they apparently solved this problem, even though Thibault, up until last month, was, apparently doing the same stuff. He just got sort of shuffled around a little bit. Here is this is Senator Grassley. Senator Grassley from Iowa was on Trey Gowdy's show, and Chuck Grassley tells us about the difficulties that he had, even as a sitting senator, of getting the FBI on the phone, getting Director Wray to answer his calls so that he can ask some questions about special agents who might be compromising all sorts of ethical guarantees that they're supposed to adhere to in this country. Here's Grassley now.
Senator, you have been in the Senate for a long time. You are very well regarded. You are one of my favorite people to bump into. You are not prone to hyperbole or conspiracies. I mean, why would Christopher Wray wait until Thursday? You wrote him a really specific letter with some specific allegations. Has he called you yet and said, listen, Senator, I need to explain this to you? Have you heard from him?
This video clip was from when Grassley originally sent those letters over to Wray. Okay, so this has been bubbling around for a long time. A lot of issues have been circling the drain for a long period of time. And hang on one second, I got to swap something here. All right, so just flipped a couple things in the chat. Thank you, K. Bean, for the notice on that. So Chuck Grassley then is now going to give an answer about where his position was after he sent the letter over to Director Wray. He sends the letter, Director Wray, you've got all sorts of problems at the FBI. You've got this guy, Timothy Thibault, who's a maniac. He's out there posting all sorts of stuff all over the internet, and he's causing us to doubt your integrity. What do you have to say about that? And so Trey Gowdy is asking him specifically, have you heard from Wray?
I waited for 6 or maybe longer than that months to have a telephone conversation with Wray. And what finally got me that telephone conversation was this. When Thibault's information, that's that special agent, when his information came to me, I issued a press release and then finally got a phone call with Wray. But before I got that phone call, so this is a small compliment to Wray that maybe he wants to do the right thing, and that is that he moved Thibault out of that position of deciding what investigations go ahead and which ones are stopped. Now, where he's reassigned and what his responsibilities are, I don't know, but presumably he's being investigated for some violation of the Hatch Act. But we need more than that. We need a concrete program by Wray, and we need that Thursday when he appears before our committee, that he's going to make sure that none of this political bias ever happens again.
Yeah, obviously that didn't happen. Christopher Wray sort of went and even showed up in front of the Senate. Remember, he was sitting there and he said, actually, I'm done answering questions. I've got to go. I've got a plane to catch. And Grassley said, well, it's like 1 o'clock. We just had lunch. We've got the whole afternoon. What do you mean you're hitting an airplane? And he's like, well, I got to go and I'm really busy. So, and they said, okay, well, I guess you run the FBI. I mean, we're just senators here on, an oversight committee. What the hell do we have to do with anything here in this government? Thanks for your time, Christopher Wray. And he just got on an airplane, I guess, went to the beach or something. So right now, something interesting that Grassley said is he said, Wray did move him, right? He did sort of move him around on another location. He kind of said, okay, kind of like Jill Biden moved Joe Biden yesterday. Just kind of picked him up and moved him over here. And it was, an interesting, is it an admission of guilt? Is that some sort of acknowledgement that, this guy is big trouble? Have you seen Tim's social media account? Holy crap, that guy went on a bender last night. Somebody better tell him to calm down. And, so anyways, Wray kicks the can down the road for many, many months, shows up in front of Congress. I got to go on vacation. Even if you're Senator Grassley, you still can't get him to answer your questions. And so it just shows you sort of the free-for-all nature of what really is happening at the FBI. It's kind of amazing. So we also have Jim Jordan. Chuck Grassley is not the only senator who's getting whistleblowers coming out of the woodwork to address what is going on in the FBI. We have Jim Jordan here. Of course, he is in the House of Representatives, and he was on Sean Hannity's show, and Sean says, listen, we know there are problems at the FBI and all this stuff keeps bubbling up to the top. When you guys get in charge, let's say if you do fast forward a couple months, Republicans are in charge, you win the November elections, you take over power in January, what happens? You guys have whistleblowers. We've heard from Grassley. He said these people are all over the place. What do you have to say about this since he's in the Senate and you're in the House? If the Senate doesn't flip towards the Republicans, well, it may be up to you, Jim Jordan. And what are you going to do about this? Do you have whistleblowers? Do you have people that you're going to use in your inquiries, in your investigation into the FBI?
Correct. We've had more than that. And you were right when Senator Grassley said there's political influence at the FBI and it's all about politics. That is certainly the case because all these whistleblowers come to us and talk about the political pressure they're under. And now we see that it may be in the Inspector General's office. By statute, the Inspector General is supposed to provide independent oversight of the Justice Department. Well, how can you do that if you're participating in an investigation?
Okay, let me brief this just a little bit before we jump into the rest of his comment. He segues a little bit. Sean says, do you have whistleblowers? And he says, yeah, we've got a lot of people. And when we're in charge, there's going to be all sorts of problems. But he says, in addition to that, we are running into a new set of problems when it comes to investigating the FBI. Why? He's going to tell us about the OIG, the Office of the Inspector General. Supposed to be an independent agency that is separate and apart from the actual FBI that does the investigations of the FBI, sort of an oversight committee. You hear about these all the time, OIGs for all the various agencies that exist out there, right? They're all sort of supposed to be overseen by somebody, and they want to delegate that outside of the agency so that they don't investigate themselves and found that they did nothing wrong, which happens regularly. So he's going to tell us about that. Now he's going to say what happens when we go over to the FBI or we want to investigate them and we go to that OIG. We go to that third party entity, and we say, we need an inquiry done. He's going to tell us about the conflation between the two, the commingling between the FBI and the OIG to such an extent that you can't even go to this third party agency in order to get oversight. Here he is.
Understand what happened here. The FBI came to the Inspector General and said, we're going to take the phone of a sitting member of Congress.
One more brief. Scott Perry was the representative we covered here on this channel at length. He was on an airplane or heading to an airport to get on an airplane when the FBI seized his cell phone, took it away from him the day after Trump got his home raided. This is what he's talking about. He's saying, we went to the OIG to get information about this, and we learned that they are commingling with the FBI, the very entity that they are supposed to be overseeing.
We're going to take his phone one day after we have raided President Trump's home, and we're going to do it while Congressman Perry is on vacation with his family. The Inspector General should have said to them, are you freaking out of your mind? This has got all kinds of constitutional concerns. You should not do it. But if you do, we will not participate. But instead, he said, go ahead and do it, and we'll image the phone. That is frightening because they're supposed to be providing the independent oversight of the Justice Department. So, yeah, there's politics at the DOJ. There's certainly politics at the FBI, as evidenced by all the whistleblowers, almost 20 that have come to the 3 respective offices. But now we have to have concerns about the Inspector General as well.
So, in other words, what are you supposed to do about all this? Okay, Chuck Grassley, Jim Jordan, they can have whistleblowers coming out the eyeballs for all they care. What can they do about it if the OIG, which is the body that's set up and supposed to investigate these types of claims, is also basically in cahoots with the FBI? You know, they'd have to, I don't know, probably, I don't know, maybe defund the FBI. I don't know, as Congress, right? They'd have to pass some legislation to make some changes and stop relying on the OIG. Well, we just send it over to them and they'll investigate it. So we'll see what the Republicans do. If every single thing is compromised, including the agencies that investigate the agencies, what are you supposed to do about it? So the FBI makes some progress in removing what appears to be a bona fide Trump hater from their ranks, which is incredible news. But it doesn't stop there, because while the FBI is throwing people out, Biden is appointing additional people into his inner circle that are total Hunter deniers. They are informational sort of liars. I mean, essentially, we're talking about this guy, right? This guy just got appointed into Biden's inner advisory role. His name is Jeremy Bash, and he's, well, let's talk about him. Joe Biden just appointed Jeremy Bash. You may not have heard of him, or you may have seen his name before. We'll see. But he showed up before on a Hunter Biden Russian intelligence statement that was spread all over the country back during the months leading up to the election. And you remember the statement. It looks something like this. Politico was actually the place that broke this. And they published this back on October 19th. You see here, this woman, her name is Natasha Bertrand. She wrote this. She said, more than 50 former intelligence officials have signed on to a letter outlining their belief that the recent disclosure of emails about Joe Biden's son, quote, has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. The letter was signed on Monday, centers around a batch of documents that came out from the New York Post. And of course, we talked about all those documents in real time. We spent a ton of time dissecting those documents. And to be honest with you, everybody, I don't know if you know this, but I am not an ex-CIA intelligence official. So, I don't have a lot of experience on these things, but we were able to take a look at the emails that were leaked out from Tony Bobulinski and others. And it was pretty easy for us to piece together that they looked legitimate. It looked like Hunter Biden's emails with all of his pals going from Rosemont Seneca, LLC.com, whatever, all over the place. It looked like as legitimate as anything any of us have ever seen. But these guys, Jeremy Bash and others, apparently had a difficult time with it. And so what they did is they actually published this letter, and Politico was the place that actually got this. You see, this came out October 19th, 2020, right before the election. And if you scroll down to the bottom of this letter, remember these individuals: Jim Clapper, former DNI, Mike Hayden, CIA, Leon Panetta, John Brennan, right? A bunch of just people who are, honestly not that intelligent. And if you keep scrolling down, we see some interesting names on here, but it's not until this, page 4, that we see this guy's name affixed right here on the bottom. Jeremy Bash, former chief of staff at the CIA, former chief of staff at the DOD, former chief counsel over on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. And so he signed this letter and he said all the following things. I mean, he's really made claim to these things. He says, media reports say that the FBI is opening an investigation, according to USA Today. the media got the information from Rudy Giuliani, saying it's part of a smoke bomb disinformation campaign pushed by Russia. Okay, so that's what this guy is sort of signing on to. Says, our view is that Russians are involved in the Hunter Biden email issue, saying it's consistent with 2 other data points as well. The Washington Post, for example, they cite 4 sources that U.S. intelligence agencies warned the White House last year that Giuliani was the target of influence by Russian intelligence. Right, and so remember how these things work. We saw the same narrative happen in the Sussman saga. Sussman went to the FBI and said, you better do something about this thing before the media publishes it. And then they went to the media and they said, you better publish this before the FBI does something about it. Okay, they play both sides of this. They're doing the same thing here. They're publishing this and they're saying, we're former intelligence officials, and we think that this is consistent with several data points and Russian disinformation. They're saying that they're involved in a multi-year operation to interfere with our democracy. And if they're right, that the Russians are influencing how Americans vote. And they signed off on this thing. Now, not one of these people, to my knowledge, has come out and said, I'm sorry about this. Sorry, I was wrong. My mistake. Haven't heard from Jim Clapper. Haven't heard from Mike Hayden or from Leon Panetta. But we do know that John Brennan, well, he's all over Twitter. But Jeremy Bash, he just got a nice promotion for his lies. Let's take a look at what happened. The White House, Joe Biden came out with this statement, and they published this over at the White House. You can see here, August 26, President Biden announces key appointments to boards and commissions. Isn't that nice? Washington today, President Biden announced his intent to appoint the following individuals to serve in different locations, including this: Jeremy Bash, member of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board. Okay, so the Hunter Biden denier, who has no intelligence and offers very bad advice, is now on the President's Intelligence Advisory Board. Oh, that's great. What a wonderful country this is. You can see we learn a little bit more about him when we scroll down. Here it says that that's Patrick. Oh, yes. Let's learn about the President's Intelligence Advisory Board. All right. The advisory board is an independent element within the executive office of the president. President board exists exclusively to assist the president by providing the president with an independent source of advice on the effectiveness with which the intelligence community is meeting the nation's intelligence needs and the vigor and insight with which the community plans for the future. The president can appoint up to 16 people to this board. All right, so Jeremy Bash, the guy who was dead wrong on the Hunter Biden laptop story, which may have been one of the most consequential, like literally one of the most consequential domestic national security issues in recent time. Literally, right? I mean, it's the president's son with Chinese ties, Russian ties, flying all over the place, right? This is a deep thing. We can spend a ton of time on it. We have. He fibbed over the whole thing, or outright lied, signed on with a bunch of other so-called intelligence officials under the cover of darkness in October to paper over this whole thing. He gets a promotion. Jeremy Bash served as the chief of staff at the CIA and the U.S. Department of Defense. Can you believe it? It's like hysterical, right? In both roles for the secretary, Leon Panetta. Bash held multiple roles on Capitol Hill, including chief counsel for the Permanent Select Committee. He's a recipient of the Distinguished Intelligence Medal. I wonder what he got that for. Hunter. The Clandestine Service Donovan Award, the CIA Director's Award, and he's a Distinguished Public Service Medal recipient. Wow. He graduated magna cum laude, graduate of Georgetown University, and here it is, Harvard Law School. Harvard, wow. I should have known. Where he was the editor of the Harvard Law Review. He's currently managing director of global strategies. He serves on the board of directors for 2 technology companies, as well as the board of directors for Truman National Policy and the International Spy Museum. All right. So the Harvard graduate, look, I don't know what they teach there, but evidently not anything about identifying emails and determining whether they're legitimate or not, because we did it on this channel. I mean, you can scroll back to October 2020. You can see all the emails. We put the emails on the screen. Hunter Biden, Tony Bobulinski, they were real, but apparently maybe they don't use email at Harvard. I don't know. They're much smarter than us. So, all right. So that's what Joe Biden did. He appoints this guy, Jeremy Bash. As we know, Jeremy Bash, of course, is the person who signed off on the letter directly. And although he's not over there at the FBI, he is somebody, of course, who is highly involved in the intelligence communities. And they, as we talked about on prior shows, went over and put pressure on Facebook and others to bury the story. And so let's take a quick look at this gentleman. His name is Jeremy, and he's going to be the person who is now advising the president. And so, okay, let's get some context. What's he going to be talking about? This is a prior clip when he was on with MSNBC talking about the January 6th insurrection hearings that are being conducted by a fake, illegitimate committee. And of course, he's on MSNBC because where else would he be? And they ask him about it. And I want to pay close attention to the language that he uses, right? And it happens fast because he's got this talking point sort of boiled down into a nice script that he can just deliver for these 2-minute talking points, right? He's very good at it. He's a smart guy. He says here that the Trump terrorist attack was what happened on January 6th. And then he's got some ideas on how to handle it.
For example, the expectation in a terrorist attack against American facilities and American personnel is that the commander-in-chief, the president, would be directing all available resources to respond. And President Trump did nothing but sit in the dining room. He didn't reach out to the
same argument that we heard from Liz Cheney, right? It's the same. It's the presidential question argument. I would have done something differently as president, and you didn't do what I did. Therefore, you're an insurrectionist. It's a ridiculous argument, but that's what they got.
The Pentagon. He didn't reach out to the Justice Department. He didn't reach out to the Department of Homeland Security. He didn't reach out to the other 47 law enforcement agencies that operate in the District of Columbia. He essentially not only just was passive, I think that was it was intent. It showed that he actually wanted the attack to unfold. He, remember, during those outtakes, said, "I will not say that the election is over."
So he wants Trump to go out and just conduct this massive, I guess, effort to try to reverse the course of what was taking place at the Capitol building. Now, did you hear that clip where he said there were 47 law enforcement agencies around D.C.? This is a point we've made for a long time. 47 different law enforcement agencies, and they couldn't secure the Capitol building. You got the FBI, the CIA. You've got this guy, a national security analyst who was in charge, apparently, as the director of the CIA and somebody who is responsible for a lot of national security issues. This guy, in all of his years of experience, along with 47 other agencies, couldn't secure the Capitol building on the day they were counting the votes for presidency? Or do you think that maybe they were involved in it a little bit?
Is that the commander-in-chief, the president, would be directing all available resources to respond. And President Trump did nothing but sit in the dining room. He didn't reach out to the Pentagon. He didn't reach out to the Justice Department. He didn't reach out to the Department of Homeland Security. He didn't reach out to the other 47 law enforcement agencies that operate.
47 law enforcement agencies in the Capitol, and they couldn't secure the Capitol building. Yeah. So a security advisor who has no real security experience, an analyst who can't really analyze anything, including emails, and he's now going to be advising the president, which is just absolutely perfect. So here we know that this stuff is in fact consequential. There was a poll that was conducted by an organization called MRC, and I have the PDF. Let's take a quick look at where this came from. Over from newsbusters.org, they tell us that they have a special report. Yeah, and they actually pulled this up. Let's just pull up the PDF so I can show you. This report came in. It is entitled Biden Messaging Survey Analysis. It was conducted by the MRC. It was an online survey. They say 1750 Biden voters were selected across a number of states. Sampling controls were installed. And we've got some data here. When we fast forward down to some of the bottom, they say the vast majority of the Biden voters say they decided for Biden over the last few months, right? So it happened very, very close to the election. Last few months or nearly up until that time, they almost always vote for the Democrats from these people. When the Hunter Biden saga broke, it was right in the last months of the election, which is why that is pertinent. Here are some of the questions they asked, right? You can see some of those there. But when we scroll down, this is the takeaway slide. Among Biden voters who were unaware of the FBI investigation, nearly 80% would have still voted for Biden had they known the information. In other words, you're a Biden voter. You don't know anything about Hunter Biden or any of this investigation. You learn about that investigation. Does it change your mind? Are you going to now continue to vote for Biden? Yes or no? 79% say yes, of course. We'd still vote for Biden anyways. What, are you kidding me? It's Biden versus Trump all day. But 16% say no, it would actually change. If I learned about that, if the FBI didn't go to Facebook and put their thumb on the scale, if 50 liars in the intelligence communities who don't have any intelligence didn't sign that letter and try to shove it down everybody's throat, then maybe 16% of people who would have learned about that wouldn't have voted for Joe. And it was in a bunch of those different states that we referenced previously at the outset. States like Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Oh, pretty important states that if 16% had flipped the other way, maybe it would have changed the outcome of the election. Right? So very important questions. And you take a look at former CIA chief of staff, guys like Jeremy Bash, guys who went to Harvard and are much smarter than everybody else around them, means they know better than us. You know, they know what's best for us. And so they'll sign on to garbage letters and try to shift the narrative to serve their political ends, all the while getting appointed and given better jobs, given raises as they move back into the president's cabinet. Jeremy Bash, my friends. All right. And so lastly, we've got one final segment here, and it's all Trump, baby. Trump got a new defense lawyer. We're going to learn a little bit more about him. Donald Trump adds a new addition to his defense team. We're going to be learning about a gentleman seen here known as Chris Kise. He's joining the Trump defense team. He's joining Alina Abba, James Trusty, Lindsey Halligan, Evan Corcoran. And so we're going to learn more about him. Then we'll check in at the docket, Donald Trump versus the United States. He's got a new motion that got filed today. It actually came from the government prosecutors. They want more pages to respond. And then we've got a very interesting clip from a guy named Mike Davis, who I'd encourage you to follow over at Mr. DDMIA on Twitter. Got a very nice, succinct, sort of 2-minute summary of Trump's defenses. And so we'll take a look at that as well. But first, let's learn about this guy. Chris Kise is the new addition to Trump's defense team. And I got a summary of this over from lawandcrime.com. And, you know, they're not big fans of Donald Trump. And so I like to go there when they are sort of doing a piece on Trump, because it's going to typically be kind of critical. But let's see what we can tease out here today. They say at Law and Crime, former President Trump has hired former Solicitor General and an ally of Ron DeSantis to join the legal team responding to the FBI raid. The attorney, Chris, did not immediately respond to an email or phone call, but he joins the Trump team. This comes after the judge said that they may consider appointing special counsel. And the Justice Department said that only a limited set of materials may actually contain attorney-client privilege. We talked about that yesterday. The judge, Eileen Cannon, was a Trump appointee. I think she got appointed in 2020. Said that she would be inclined to grant the request, but now it may be moot. In other words, remember, they wanted the special master appointed so that they had somebody moderating the government's review of Melania's underwear. They don't want her rummaging through these FBI agents just rummaging through all of them. So they said somebody needs to make sure they don't get crazy over there, right? And slow down the library book processing. And they said, well, we've already rummaged through everything. We've already tried everything on. There's nothing else to try on. And so what do we need somebody to watch us to make sure we're not, abusing anything? And the judge said, that's a good point. Why would I appoint somebody if you've already tried everything on? So just as the legal observers have questioned about the delay, well, Kise served on DeSantis' transition team in Florida. He's known as the attorney who helped derail the campaign of Andrew Gillum in 2018. You remember what a weird story that was. DeSantis narrowly won that race after Kise publicized that Gillum got free tickets to Hamilton. And didn't he get indicted? Anyways, earlier this year, charged with wire fraud and lying to the FBI in an indictment. Kise successfully argued 4 cases before the Supreme Court of the United States and dozens of others before the Supreme Court of Florida, according to his biography. NBC News says that he's considering leaving the firm, Foley and Lardner, noting that certain firms have shied away from representing the former president. Now, by press time, and I got this too, his profile as a partner at the firm had been removed from the firm's website, which remains an archived form. So they got rid of him so fast, they said, oh gosh, delete him from the website. We don't want anything to do with it. Chris was a Democrat. He's running against DeSantis. Nobody had anything to comment on about this. But it was true. I actually went to go find this guy, and on his firm profile, this is what it looked like today. Not found. Foley and Lardner. Lardner. That's what a great name. Lardner. Foley and Lardner. LLP. We'll fight for you. So he was there, not found anymore, right? His bio has been removed, and they said, nope, we don't. Who? Chris who? No idea who that is. But we can actually pull from the Wayback Machine. I went back and I actually found the profile from when he was there. Here's what it looks like, in fact. Christopher M. Kise, or Kise. Somebody says kind of looks like Tom Brady. Yeah. Here it says, he is an AV litigated partner concentrating on areas of major trials and appeals involving complex corporate and environmental white-collar defense issues. Successfully argued 4 cases before the court, filed more than a dozen briefs at the High Court, Florida Supreme Court as well, trial and litigation experience, Florida's Solicitor General, the state's top litigator, counsel for Charlie Crist, general counsel to Rick Scott, and counselor to Ron DeSantis, man. So he's been all over the place. He serves as the co-chair of the appellate practice. He's also a member of the energy team. Also, man, this guy is like all over the place. He's got an eminent scholar chair at Florida State College, white-collar criminal practice, AV preeminent rating. All right, the best lawyer in America. Okay. Education. Where did he go to college? Did he go to Harvard? No. He went to Florida State, a real college, where he served as managing editor and article of the Law Review there. He received his undergraduate degree from the University of Miami in 1986. Yeah, where real people go to school. That's good. Let's see what else he's got for us here. There was another thing here. Yes, so here are some of the cases. All right, so as we said, these Supreme Court cases, man, back-to-back years. Woo! That's impressive. 2005, Supreme Court case. 2006, Gonzalez versus Crosby, Day versus McDonough, Lawrence versus Florida, 2007, 3 years back, and 2018. And the Supreme Court, 4 years back to back. Argued as counsel of record, man. That's pretty impressive. That's like going to the Super Bowl 4 times. That's pretty amazing. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And then before that, 11th Circuit. So he's a heavy hitter. He's a good lawyer, like no doubt about it. Been to the Super Bowl 4 times. You can't argue with that. Talking about Tom Brady analogies, you got one there. Now, of course, he joins the team. We've already learned a little bit about Alina Abba on the show. We've talked a lot about her. She is the managing partner at her own law firm, I believe. And actually, I think since the last time we spoke, she joined somebody. It used to just be her. Now she's got a partner over there. Managing partner, mid-sized law firm, corporate litigation, family law. Right, she got sort of dumped on by many people in the media. They're like, oh, what is she, like, represent like parking lot companies or something? Right, it's because she's better looking than them, and they get really offended when that happens. Let's see here. Post-JD education, all over the place, prides herself on being involved in charitable organizations. Birth Haven, an organization for homeless pregnant women. What an amazing person. Let's see here. 2020 Women's Achievement Award by the Tri-County Scholarship Fund, and she provides private schooling for children in desolate areas of New Jersey. What an amazing woman. Just amazing. The defense attorneys are just the best in the world, aren't they? Let's see who else we have here. Look at this amazing individual. His name is James Trusty. Gosh, he's probably incredible too. Gosh, handsome as hell. James Trusty, on Trump's team, spent 28 years as a prosecutor. Ugh. All right, well, we won't hold it against him. Trusty brings extensive experience in white-collar litigation, matters involving RICO, Money Laundering Control Act says that the federal government is applying broad statutes, which is true. Jim offers an insider's view on how federal cases are built. Ooh, that sounds good. And he is ranked, he's a former prosecutor, and he's got a big career. 7 years in the DOJ criminal division, ultimately responsible for prosecuting regional and international cases. In addition to running the RICO review unit, he was in charge of establishing and promoting policies, all sorts of corruption cases, was the assistant U.S. Attorney General out of Maryland. He speaks at conferences. He does pro bono events. And he was appointed by the governor of Maryland to study the criminal gang statutes. Wow. All right. And so you can see a little bit more about James Trusty. And so he is also on the Trump team. Now, Trump has some other individuals out there as well. Of course, Lindsey Halligan and Evan Corcoran. We've talked about both of them, in particular, Evan. Evan was also representing Steve Bannon. In fact, I think that photograph may have been from the Steve Bannon trial, which we covered at length. For as lengthy as it was only like 4 days. But we did cover it. And so that is the makeup of the new team. You can see what a great looking group of people. Very handsome, very good looking people. A lot of intelligence there. And it looks pretty promising. We got an update in the case that Donald Trump is filed against the U.S. government. They are suing, sort of filing a complaint, demanding that the court appoint a special counsel. And the government responded here. You can see the docket update from August 29th says that there was an order granting the defendant's unopposed motion to exceed the page length. So this means the government, they said, Judge, 20 pages? We're going to need a lot more than that to get to the bottom of this. And the judge actually granted that. But let's take a look at their justification, why they wanted that additional space. This motion is 3 pages, filed August 29th, Donald Trump versus the United States of America. Government prosecutors are asking for more pages. They want more room. Typically, when you're writing a government essay, you want less room, but they want more. United States unopposed motion to exceed the page length. They write, all right, Judge, in accordance with the local rules, U.S. seeks permission from the court to go over 20 pages in our response to Trump's original complaint on docket entry 1 and docket entry 28. And they say, we can't do this unless we get your permission, Judge. And so here's why we need it. On August 22nd, Trump filed a 21-page motion for judicial oversight and relief. In his motion, Trump said, among other things, that we need a special master appointed and we need our property returned. The following day here, this court, Judge, you ordered us to file by August 26 a motion addressing the ambiguities, and we responded. Now, government and Trump filed a 10-page supplement. Then on August 27th, we got a preliminary order from this court to respond by August 30th, which is, of course, to date. They write, the government seeks to file a response up to 40 pages in length to adequately address the legal and the factual issues raised by the plaintiff's motion and Trump's requests. The government has conferred with Trump and his lawyers, and the lawyers do not object to the granting of this motion. So the court should grant the government's motion, and a proposed order is attached, signed off on by Juan Gonzalez, who is the U.S. government prosecutor, who is appearing on the case opposing Donald Trump. So that motion, of course, is granted. So that's actually really good news for me and us. That means we're going to have 20 additional pages of stuff to talk about. Maybe that's not good news for you. Maybe 20 pages isn't enough for you. But I'll take another 20, okay? I can't help myself. I just like it too much. But we will take a look at that. Those are going to hit, this week. We'll see a whole slew of additional filings come out of the docket, and we'll go through them in detail. And I appreciate you subscribing and liking this video, making sure you're subscribed so that we see you back here. And finally today, we've got this amazing clip from this guy named Mike Davis. And I think this is sort of potato quality recording, but here it is. Now, Mike Davis for us is a former law clerk to a Supreme Court judge. His name is Judge Gorsuch. We've talked a lot about him here. One of the more recent judges to be appointed on the bench, a Trump-appointed judge. This guy evidently worked for him as a law clerk. And that's kind of a pretty prestigious position to be in. Clerking for a Supreme Court judge, it's like, being the personal assistant for the president almost, right? It's really, really important job. And so he is going to be summarizing for us a very nice set of defenses that Donald Trump and his team are maturing as we speak. Remember, when we back up on this, there are really three main areas where Trump is sort of allegedly facing some criminal liability. One is obstruction of justice. The other is the Espionage Act. And the third is the Presidential Records Act. Now, what Mike Davis is going to walk us through is all three of those. And he's going to say that in order for you to have an obstruction charge, you've got to have an underlying criminal offense, right? If you're obstructing an investigation into you stealing the candy bar, you actually have to have stolen the candy bar. Otherwise, if they're investigating you not stealing a candy bar and you don't obstruct that investigation, what are they what are you obstructing? There's no underlying offense, right? And so that's what he's saying here. And I want to pay close attention to this because this is very succinct. This is a beautiful delivery. You know, I couldn't have done it better myself. But he said, he walks us through this if I wrote it, right? And he's sort of doing this off the cuff. Very, very good here. And he walks us through that. Trump is immune under the Presidential Records Act because he has the ability to decide what is a record, what is personal, and what is not. Trump has the ability under Supreme Court precedent to declassify at will. And if there are no underlying offenses, how can you possibly have obstruction? Here is Mike Davis. I recommend you follow him on Twitter.
Has the absolute constitutional authority to declassify anything he wants for any reason he wants, and he doesn't have to get permission from any bureaucrat at the National Archives to do that. And that is confirmed by a 1988 Supreme Court case, Department of the Navy versus Egan. So there goes the underlying potential charge for espionage that's in this that was in this warrant.
That's
second point. The president has the sole statutory authority to make the determination whether a record is a personal record that belongs to him or a presidential record that goes to the bureaucrats at the National Archives and then almost certainly gets sent back to the president to put in his former library.
Oh, what happened?
A judge related to Judicial Watch and Tom Fenton's lawsuits against President Clinton related to 8 years of audio tapes in his sock drawer. So what is left? They're looking at obstruction. Well, it is legally impossible for a former president to obstruct investigations into non-crimes. The Justice Department did not have the power to even look at these crimes because it doesn't matter what the evidence shows in this affidavit, no matter what that evidence shows as a matter of law, it is legally impossible for President Trump to have committed espionage or to have violated some Presidential Records Act. The Presidential Records Act actually contemplates that former presidents have classified records. It doesn't differentiate. Congress gives former presidents office space, secure office space. They give the former president's staff security clearance and Secret Service protection to guard these paper records. And there's no allegation that any of these records got into the wrong hands, unlike Hillary Clinton's home server, where she had foreign governments hack the most highly classified secrets in our government, and she didn't get an FBI raid. So what was so urgent that caused the Biden Justice Department to go get these records? And I think it's because President Trump declassified and made personal a copy of his copy of the Crossfire Hurricane records, the Russian collusion records, and the Biden Justice Department never made them public because they're so damning on Obama, Hillary, Clinton, the FBI, and the intel community.
Wow. So did you catch that at the end there? Why would they go through all of this? If they know that Donald Trump is immune, if they know that they can't get him under Presidential Records Act, it's not a criminal statute. And they know they can't get him under espionage because he has the ability to declassify. What are they going to try to get him on? Obstruction. For what? Not returning the library books when they were due. Very upset about that. Why would they go through all of that? It's the return documents that they want. It's that Crossfire Hurricane document stuff that is floating around out there. Trump took it with him and they want it back. Very interesting theory sent out there by Mike Davis over on Twitter. Good follow and a very nice, succinct explanation. They give him like 2 minutes and he was able to just hammer it all home. And so that's Mike Davis giving us an update on, I think, a defense that Trump's defense is already using. They've already started to assemble the defense team, and they're going to be making new filings this week. We will, of course, cover those when they hit the docket. And I appreciate you subscribing wherever it is you're watching this so that you can follow and join us as we do that. But that, my friends, is the segments that we covered today. We covered a lot of ground, and now it's time to hear from you. We talked about the FBI special agent, Trump hater, was shown the door. He's out. Timothy Thibault is on his way. We've got Hunter Biden denier Jeremy Bash, who got appointed over to Biden's intelligence advisory board. All right. And well, lastly, we talked about Trump's new defense team. And as usual, now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. So we're going to check in with John Allen over on Locals. He says, hey, ho, ho, the FBI has got to go, sending for a friend named Hunter. That was over from John Allen on Locals, and they're chatting away over there over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. But now let's see what you have to say, my friends. We had a couple super chats come in on YouTube before we jump over to Locals. Glenn Talman started us off the show. He said, keep up the great job, Robert. Well, thank you, Glenn. It's very generous of you. Very nice of you to send that over. I'm glad that you're here, and I appreciate that support. 66 Anton says, thanks, Rob. Love the show. Love you back, 66 Anton. Same to you. Thank you for being here, and I do appreciate that support. We had another one from Tara. Two came in from Tara Rayner. Tara says, Rob, Glenn Beck put out an extremely interesting report on the timeline of Trump's interactions in the DOJ movement. You should watch it and share the Kash Patel interview about the archives. And the date of the interview is sus. Well, so I'll take a look at it. I don't know that I've seen it, right? I've seen many timelines. I'm wondering if I've sort of seen it on Twitter, seen some of the highlights or something, but I may not have. But Tara, if you haven't shared it, share it over on Locals, or if you're not on Locals, send me an email at robert@rrlawaz.com, and I'll take a look at it if you want to. Yeah. Here it says, share the Glenn Beck report. Okay, so it's a report. Okay, thank you, Tara. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I've seen a lot of them, right? I've seen a lot of the dates and timelines, but not Glenn Beck's. Odam Amadeo. Odama Amato. Odama Amato is here. Says, corrupt to the core, from Odama Amato. Thank you, Odama. I think you're talking about the FBI. Hopefully not me, but yeah, the FBI. Yeah, it's true. Selv is here, says, Bash on intelligence advisory. What about Susan Rice? She came on board and is kept under the radar for a while now. I'm sure she's a part of it. Yeah, I don't know what happened to Susan Rice. A lot of people speculate that the Biden administration is really sort of the third Obama administration. Like, a lot of the people who are running things there are just holdovers. And, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, remember, it's all very much an incestuous sort of intermingled relationship. Jake Sullivan, the NSA advisor who went to Oxford, he was somebody who actually worked for the Hillary Clinton campaign. Now he's national security advisor over to Biden. Terry became a member, which is amazing. Terry, we do. So if you're not familiar, we post morning walk and talks on our watchingthewatchers.locals.com community, where we just talk about other stuff going on sort of around the day. Here was this morning's, for example.
Streets, really sort of unpacking this.
What were we talking about today?
This, as I said yesterday on the show,
what did I say?
Millions of views, and it's sort of this caricature.
Lindsey Graham and his caricature. Yeah, that's what we talked about. Lindsey Graham, he's something else, that guy. Yeah, so Terry became a member, and so you'll get those. I hope you enjoy them. Thanks, Terry, for the support, becoming a member. I'm grateful. Catman says, Trump team needs to write 40-page responses and redact 90% of it. And see how well they deal with it. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, just redact all your filings and just say, what? I thought that's what we did now. I thought that that's it's just redactions all day long. Yeah, okay. So here is Tara Rayner sent over. She just sent me an email, like on the spot, like Johnny on the spot, man. That was fast. Sent over this, says, so check this one out over on Glenn Beck. Convenient event hints this is why the FBI raided Trump. It's 9 minutes, so obviously I'm not going to jip the whole thing here. Ooh, but this looks good. Look at that chalkboard. Let's see if we can see sort of what they've got going on here at the end. Yeah. So, okay. So April, May, June, August, May, June, July, August. Yeah, we started to flesh out some of this. Remember on our mind map, I think, Tara, there was a little bit that we started to assemble there. But yeah, so check that out. It says convenient event hints this. Go follow that. Thank you for sharing that, Tara. And I think a takeaway from that is there was a lot of conversation back and forth about a lot of these things. It wasn't like Donald Trump was just sitting around waiting, ignoring everything, right? Month after month, there was back and forth. There was conversation. So why did this have to happen all of a sudden? It doesn't really make any sense. Thank you for that, Tara and Catman. All right, let's jump over to locals and see what we've got over here, my friends. JC the Music Man says, Rob, that timeline isn't nearly as fancy as yours. Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, he's doing the chalkboard thing. Oh yeah, you're so creative. Why? Because you write it out with your hand. Okay, whatever, Glenn. Whatever, Glenn. Former LEO says, will any of these people who violated their oath or committed perjury be prosecuted? Under the color of authority seems like a good statute. Nothing is ever going to change without prosecutions take away their pensions. No, I don't think they'll be prosecuted, former. Well, look, if you start prosecuting people who lie to Congress, you're going to have to prosecute everybody. And if you start prosecuting people, nobody's going to show up to Congress. And so they have a separate problem. Tricky says, I think Rogan had on Zuckerberg so he could admit the censorship of the laptop before it came out from whistleblowers, which was already well in play in advance of Thibault's resignation today. Anyone else? Very interesting, Tricky. Very interesting. Yeah, like the pieces are all starting to fall into place, like they're following a marketing campaign. Okay, Zuck, you go first, and then Thibault, you resign. And then go on Rogan, and then you go, and then you go, and then you go. Maybe. I'm not sure, but yeah, it seems like a sinking ship, maybe. Mr. MVP is here. And if you're on locals, Mr. MVP is sharing stories left and right all day. I love it. Says, looks to me like I need a bigger bag of popcorn. Where, oh, where did FISA-gate and Russia-gate documents go? My understanding that the document and names, and so it must be FISA documents. Someone prevented them from being recorded right after the declassification. Durham, maybe? The fire under the kettle has been turned up on another smidgen. Must be getting hot inside that pot. That's a good comment from Mr. MVP. It's almost like poetry. Where, oh, where did the FISA-gate go? Oh, where did it go? I don't know. Hunter's crack dealer says, with all of this Trump distraction for the FBI, I'm just hoping my buddy Hunter doesn't get prosecuted. Man, he owes me so much money since his last binge. P.S. Don't tell him about me. Hunter's crack dealer's in the house. Yeah. Hunter Biden has, I think, a Hollywood, I think he's like a sugar daddy or something. Little weird relationship over there, but he's got a nice place to live over in California. Three Girlies is here. Says, youngest girlie says hi. She says she wants a shout out. She swears she is your favorite. She is my number one favorite. The youngest girlie over at the Three Girlies household. Big official Happy Tuesday shout out to the youngest girlie. We're grateful that you are here and listening in. Oh, we've got a good GIF here from Vienticus. Amazing. Okay, so that's I think that's square. And that's probably going to be perfect. Thank you, V. Gosh, you're such an amazing dude. I think that's going to be perfect. So Lean, that's going to be, if it's under 1 megabyte, if not, I can shrink it down. But if it's under 1 megabyte, man, that's just perfect. And that's him saying, I really don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know in his little voice. Heather says, wait a minute. Wasn't Patriot a word in the FBI watch list for DVE? Ray just said that the FBI agents all over the country are patriots. His version of patriots, not ours. Former LEO says, all those Democratic government lawyers attended Harvard Law because they have no ethics courses available. That's a good one. Why did the lawyer go to Harvard? He didn't want to take ethics. Ba-da-bum. Well done there, former LEO. Thunder7 says, Rob, you're stumbling all over myself here. Rob, your regular viewers already know this, but for any newbies out there who are not aware, the Democrat Rhino Alliance are a criminal enterprise, so of course they hire liars and traitors with TDS. Bash is no different than Garland or China Joe or anyone else he's appointed. Their entire mission is to destroy the MAGA movement, which represents freedom, while they represent tyranny. The enemy is not only at the gate, they are inside the castle, from Thunder 7. This one came in from Martin. 16% would have voted. 16% of his actual votes. Yeah, talking about some numbers there. Voting is sacred. Every vote must be counted. Yeah, a lot of good stuff there from Martin. Christ for governor. Robert, so do you think he has a shot? Yeah, he should run. Yeah, he should run. He'll yeah. That's obviously not Charlie Crist. Probably. Could be. I don't know. Emotionally old cat lady is here. Oh, emotional. So Bonnie, Emotional old cat ladies here. It went from grouchy to happy, emotional, which is good. You know, it's sort of down, like lows, highs. And since it's such a wavy thing, you just sort of just settle on emotional. That way you don't have to change it. If you're grumpy, you're emotional. If you're happy, you're emotional. It's much simpler. No changing needed. Well done. Says, coincidence that Trump's new attorney has Supreme Court experience? Huh? Any chance of a Trump emergency with the Supreme Court over the constitutional ruling? I'm braiding it tonight. Can't remember what constitutionally the raid and the prosecution of Trump would fall under, like a president's ability to declassify documents. I think what you're asking, emotional old cat lady, is whether or not Trump would have some sort of original jurisdiction in front of the Supreme Court. Like, could he appeal directly to the Supreme Court on this issue? And to be honest, I have no idea. I mean, you know, like there's all sorts of constitutional arguments and separation of powers arguments, but who would he sue? Or, yeah, no, I don't think he can file directly, but certainly I think what he's doing is the right way to do it. File in a district court, take it up to the 11th Circuit, and then move it up to the Court of Appeals. 11th Circuit, then to the Supreme Court. And there's no real urgency for that, right? There's plenty of time here. Thunder 7 says, wow, great to witness Rogan's transformation from being a lunatic Bernie supporter to telling multi-millions of people to vote Republican. Did you see that? I did see that. Rogan says, what do you do to solve this insanity? He said, vote Republican. And his guest is like, oh, this is uncomfortable. What do I say? Because if I say anything, I'm going to get killed. So he didn't say anything. And Rogan just kept going. But yeah, he says, I think he woke up a lot of fans to this very liberal insanity, saying that they're deliberately destroying America. Former LEO says, Alina graduated from Harvard Business School. What would Jake from Harvard say? Well, I think Jake went to Oxford, so he doesn't, you know, the Harvard people are like peasants to him. Don Tess is here. Don Tess, he says, how are we, the people, going to claw back our freedoms from these government agencies and bureaucrats? Long story short, Don Tess, the technical answer is vote. Okay. The real answer, I think, is parallel systems, parallel economies, parallel monetary systems, parallel informational supply chains, parallel communities, just like the ones that we're building here on Locals and on Rumble. Moose in the house says, checking in, Rob. Great work. Good to see you, Moose. Speech Unleashed is here. He says, did you see the trailer for My Son Hunter coming out on September 7th? I have not seen it yet, but I have seen a lot of the headlines for it, but I haven't watched the trailer yet. But I'm sure it's good. Speech Unleashed is plugging that one, so go check that out. Good to see you, Speech. Former says the FBO is a stain on the integrity of all law enforcement officers, which, yeah, I think you'd find a lot of people agreeing with you on that one. And we're doing a quick refresh, and we're going to see what else we have going on over here. All right, let's see what we've got here. Facts Matter has a hat for us. Says Rob is working his booty off, so please hit that like button, friends. Well, thank you for that, Facts Matter. I would love that, yeah, if you would hit that like. Donkeypox, the disease killing America. Did you see Beto and his campaign come out? They're like, we don't have monkeypox, okay? No, we don't have it. The doctor said it's a bacterial infection. Bacteria. All right? Not monkeypox. All right. Just so we're clear. Kenny Cole says, why does anyone consider the establishment to be anything other than anti-human blobs sucking the gun energy out of everything American? You can't ignore them or they'll just lie. You can't stop being political because they won't allow it. They want politics in everything. Did you think there would be sects of the Catholic Church embracing some of these issues like abortion and trans stuff? Take back the politics. No, I did not think that. Swiftly move to take back the norms in the culture. They've lost their damn minds. Yeah, it's a good comment from Kenny. Vientika says the GIF ratio is 1:1 and it's 650 kilobytes. Just incredible. It's just incredible. I shouldn't have even questioned you, V. What was I thinking? Obviously, it was to my specifications. All right, my friends, let's do a quick refresh on a couple of the platforms. And for some reason, I don't know. Okay, so all right, so we're doing a refresh, but I think we've gotten everything for the day, my friends. We had Marcy became a member. Oh, no, we have Tall Skinny Geek is here. He says, go buy yourself an entire pack of black construction paper on me. It promotes openness and transparency. I'll just file my motions on black construction paper. Well, it's written right there, Judge. I printed it this morning. It's right there on black construction paper, right? That's the point. And I don't mean print in white ink. I mean print on black ink on black construction paper. Thank you, Tall Skinny Geek. I'll get nothing done. We have Marcy, who became a member, getting those morning walk and talks. Welcome, Marcy. Al Jolly is here, says Trump has copies of Crossfire Hurricane files. He's not stupid. He just set up the stupid FBI. I mean, I was thinking about that. What if in his boxes, it's like a bunch of romance novels or something, something ridiculous. Or it's a copy of all of the SBI's misdeeds, or something. I'd like that. Mark Pate says they're hiding all the players and putting others in executive order box X22 Red Pill 76. Have great things to say on Rumble. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you for that, Mark. Yeah, so X22 and Red Pill 76. I don't know either of those guys. But Rumble's growing like crazy, my friends. A lot of people are going over there, rightfully so. And that's exciting stuff. We talked a lot about that on our morning walk and talk. Trump got booted out of Truth Social. Did we cover that today? I think I might have deleted that or forgotten to cover that one. But yeah, Trump on Truth Social is getting booted out of the Play Store, the Google Play Store. And, the great bifurcation continues and the sort of digital civil war unfolds in front of us. Former LEO is here. He says, did you see that meathead on Bill Maher? That dope didn't know about the laptop. Yeah, that was Rob Reiner, right? And I actually talked about that on the morning walk and talk a little bit today. It's shocking, that you're going to have two entirely different realities that are so disconnected that even the biggest stories go right over somebody's head like that. But I think there's going to be more of that. Zach Nichols says, nothing to see here. Thanks, as always, from all of us. Thank you, Zach. I'm glad that you're here and a part of our community. But looks like that's it, my friends. I think we have covered all of the comments on the day. And I am grateful that you are here with us. Let's give one final reminder and thanks to everybody who was a part of the show. And of course, I invite you to come and join us over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. It's our community. We have amazing people there who share awesome links and post great comments. Jeremy, JC the Music Man, had an amazing comment today talking about Steven Crowder and some other stuff. Jumpin' Jeff sent a tip over on Locals. He says, parallel societies, a nation of slaves and masters living right next to and among the nation of free people, practicing liberty and justice for those that want it. Like that, Rob? Yeah, I do think just like that. Yeah, unfortunately. I think that there's going to be people who stay plugged into the system. They get their universal basic income, or they get their inflation checks, or they get their food allotment or whatever. And they log in with their credit score, social ID, and all of that stuff. And they'll live that way, and they'll be probably happy, and they'll be nice little slaves in that future. And then there will be the rest of us who refuse to live that way and who decide to set up parallel systems and work with other people who are like-minded, live with other people who are like-minded, do business with other people who are like-minded, and so on. And, it's going to be a sad thing, and I think that there is more to that. People should be free to live in societies they want to live in. If you want to go live in a censored, hyper-controlled, ultra woke, pronounced out society, go for it. If you don't, go for it. Go be free. Go live and be offensive if you want. I think that's a very, very nice compromise, and I'm looking forward to being a part of that new era. Let's see what else we've got here. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, chat. That was from C. Reed over on Locals. Thank you, C. Reed. I appreciate that. They're all laughing. I don't know what they're laughing at, but they're laughing over there at something. But that, my friends, over on watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Thank you for joining over on YouTube as well. You get the same benefits. You just don't get that sort of amazing community. Locals, you can post stuff. Like, you can post stuff. And on YouTube, you really don't have that functionality. But you do have GIFs, and we've got the new Hunter Biden GIF, which I'll add right after the show. Thank you, V, for that. We also have a final reminder before we leave here for the day that I am a criminal defense lawyer. We have a lot of fun here on this channel, but we do hard work every day helping good people charged with crimes find safety clarity and hope in their cases and beyond that in their lives. Any type of criminal charge, DUI, domestic violence, any type of assault, right? We stand firm on the presumption of innocence, and we force the government to prove their cases beyond a reasonable doubt. It's their burden, not ours. And there are many good people who get caught up in an overly aggressive, psychotic system, and we want to help them piece themselves and their lives back together. We appreciate your referrals. You keep us busy, and you keep us doing our mission, our life's work. So thank you for that. We offer free case evaluations, 480-787-0394, or at rrlawaz.com. You can click free case evaluation, call, schedule online, all the good stuff. And we're grateful for your support. Lastly, I want to say thank you to all the mods who mod down the fort for us. And we had a busy show today, so big shout outs and thank yous to Vienticus, to K-Bean, to Just Cause is in the house. Big shout outs to Lean. We got Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zulu is always in the house, along with Geomancy Games and others. And I want to thank our honorable retired Lava Java Lava as well. Thank you to our Spotlight supporters who support the show with a little bit of extra monetary love every single day. We thank Chris Romero, David B3, Dr. EMB in the house, along with QSimple.com over with John. Check him out. Check out QSimple.com. And my friends, that is it for the day. We covered a lot of ground. A lot of Biden, Trump news, and there's going to be a lot more of it tomorrow. And so if you're still sticking around, I'd appreciate one more like before you got out of here. And I am going to be here with you again tomorrow. We're closing some of these things up because we're going to be back to do it all again. And what else? That's it, my friends. And so I hope that you have a tremendous evening, that you have a nice hearty dinner, or maybe a little, little dessert, little scoop of ice cream. You can have a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit, before you hit the sack and get a good night's sleep and some rest, because we're going to be back here tomorrow to do it all again. And I look forward to seeing you there. Have a tremendous evening, my friends. Bye-bye.